When we started this process in 2017 of just seeing a fertility specialist, her after examining all of our results in our tests, she told me that the best thing for me to do was to remove my fallopian tubes. When she delivered that news, I heard the Holy Spirit tell me, "You will not remove your fallopian tubes, and if you do, you're removing me from your miracle process." And so I heard that so clearly from the Holy Spirit, and I stood by what the Holy Spirit told me, even though it went against every logic of what the doctor and what the doctor said. And she reminded me that that was always an option and would give us a better chance of having a successful IVF process. The Holy Spirit just never allowed me to move forward with that procedure. There have been just different seasons that we walk through in IVF that have been very challenging. The first one is, when they did the egg retrieval. As humans, we think there is value in numbers, and so they had initially retrieved 18 healthy eggs, healthy mature eggs, and many of them fertilized immediately. And so it was like a 5-day process that we had to wait, and each day that went by, a couple of embryos would just not make it. And so when it came to our appointment, we were just so excited because we were given the news the day after the procedure, like these many eggs fertilized, we're on a good track. And then on the day of when we actually had our follow-up appointment, the doctor was so saddened to deliver the news that we only had one. And I was devastated. One is a scary number. And I've had many conversations with the Lord, and I said, "God, this is scary. This is not what we had anticipated. One is a number of perfection. One is a number of no mistakes. One is a scary number." And on my way home one day from work, the Holy Spirit, in my dialogue with him, spoke so clearly, and he said, "Am I not a God of perfection? Am I not a God of no mistakes? Do you not trust me?" And that was a defining moment for me. After that incident, we were scheduled to have our embryo implantation on November 20th. And the appointment right before that to confirm our date of implantation, the doctor discovered that I had polyps.
Yeah.
It was just one thing after another. But by that time, the doctor was more saddened than I was.
Yeah.
She just apologized in the room. She's like, "I'm so sorry that you're running into all of these barriers and these roadblocks." And honestly, at that point, I just smiled through my mask and I said, "It's okay. It's supposed to be this way. God is walking us through this process." And so we're so overjoyed knowing that this is God's timing. This is where he's brought us to.
Yeah, and throughout this entire time, we were teaching School for Christian Growth, and we were teaching, going over a book by Pastor Dr. Tony Evans, and the book is called Detours, the story of the life of Joseph. So it was very fitting for us to read through and teach this book of Detours, given the fact that in this season, we've gone through our own level of detours, of setbacks, of waiting and things not going the way that we wanted to throughout this entire season. Everything made sense. And it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Just kind of bringing it all together. And, we finished the book right around, like just before we, went in for embryo transfer. So it's been a blessing just kind of going through that book and looking back at our season and just sort of seeing where God was moving and how he was shaping and molding us. So it's been a joy to see and look back at that. God's will is for our good, for his good pleasure, for the expansion of his kingdom. However this testimony looks, it'll be to glorify him and to glorify his kingdom. So for me, that's my ultimate, expectation is his will. And, God willing, we get a baby out of it. So
I think that I would be a fool to not say that I'm believing for life. I'm claiming life, I'm believing for life, but I also know, like what Manny said, is that God is sovereign, and he has already shown us through all these years that his ways are higher than our ways and his plans are greater than our plans. And looking back, if I could change or rush anything or alter anything, I would definitely not, just because we've discovered so much of his goodness and his blessing throughout the process. The one thing that I've truly developed during this entire season was a greater intimacy and knowledge of who God is. Growing up, I knew that there was something more, a testimony that I would be able to call my own. I just didn't know what it was. And during this process, I can see God's fingerprints in my life, and I'm able to reflect personally on his goodness and all of the things that he's doing in myself individually, but more purposefully through our marriage.